Hello, everyone. We will be beginning our live webinar broadcast in just a few moments, so bear with us. We'll be starting in just a moment. Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to Northern Medical Center's first public webinar. I am Dr. Damon Noto. I'm the medical director at Northern Medical Center. Today, our webinar will be on how to strengthen your immunity during the COVID-19 pandemic. We're very fortunate today to have a presenter named Dr. Jingduan Yang, who's one of the leading health experts, in my opinion. I'd like to start just by explaining why we're having this webinar. We will be doing a series of webinars. This one we feel is extremely important because the COVID-19 pandemic has basically impacted every person's life, whether you're young or old. This pandemic has had an impact on every aspect of people's lives, from the way they work, to the way they go to school, to the way they go to restaurants, to the way they interact socially with family members and friends. It's had a major impact on almost every aspect of our lives. It's also brought many people hardships, and some people have even lost loved ones and friends. Fortunately, the vaccine has brought some hope. However, there's still fairly long waiting lines for the vaccine, and many people still have concerns and questions about the safety and efficacy of the vaccine. It's uncertain at this point when the pandemic will end and what will the future bring. So the question we had and we thought was relevant to everybody was, are there any practical ways that we can improve our immune system during this pandemic? And that's why we've asked Dr. Yang to come today to present on this topic. Let me first give a little background about Northern Medical Center, since we are a very new medical center and not many of you know much about us. Northern Medical Center is a nonprofit outpatient facility. We're based in Orange County, Middletown, New York, and we began seeing patients in January 2020, right before the pandemic began. Our main services currently are largely primary care services. We do have rehabilitative medicine, and we have integrative medicine, which includes things like acupuncture, as well as traditional Chinese medicine and herbs. You can go to the next slide. We do have services such as telemedicine services. We have annual physical checkups. We do wellness evaluations. We do things such as employment physicals, DOT exams, preoperative medical clearances. We do COVID-19 testing, COVID-19 vaccinations, as well as treat people with acupuncture, physical therapy, and traditional internal medicine services. Next slide. A little bit about Northern Medical Center's approach, which I think is unique. We do treat every patient as an individual, and every patient has their unique conditions. We look to optimize treatment and care based on that person's individual situation, and we tailor our treatments towards the patient. Instead of looking at just the patient's symptoms, we look for the root cause of their ailments. And we choose treatments that try to enhance and balance one's natural immune system, as well as their overall health. Whenever possible, we try to avoid things such as using medicines to suppress symptoms. The other thing that's unique is we use more of an integrative approach. We use traditional medicine, but we also use integrative medicine techniques such as acupuncture, herbs, and traditional Chinese medicine. Now I'd like to spend a few moments introducing our speaker today. We really are very fortunate to have our speaker, Dr. Jingduan Yang, who is one of the leading physicians in integrative medicine today. He is a board-certified psychiatrist as well as an integrative medicine expert. He did a fellowship in integrative medicine at the University of Arizona with Dr. Andrew Weil. He's a fifth-generation teacher and practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine who specializes in clinical acupuncture. He received his training in neurology as well as psychiatry at the prestigious 4th Military Medical Institute in Xi'an, China, as well as at the WHO Collaborative Mental Health Center in Shanghai. He completed a research fellowship in clinical pharmacology at Oxford University and did a residency training in psychiatry at Thomas Jefferson University in Philadelphia. Dr. Yang is now a faculty member at the University of Arizona's Center for Integrative Medicine. He was the former assistant professor of psychiatry and doctor of the Oriental Medicine and Acupuncture program at Thomas Jefferson University. He's a regular speaker at medical conferences and professional organizations where he educates people about the multiple benefits of integrative medicine. He's also authored 2 books that you see there, Facing East, Ancient Health and Beauty Secrets for the Modern Age, and Clinical Acupuncture and Ancient Chinese Medicine. Dr. Yang's impressive, successful clinical therapies has attracted mainstream media attention, such as from the New York Times Magazine, ABC, NBC, and many others. He's currently the medical director of the Yang Institute of Integrative Medicine, which has locations in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And we are hopefully in the process of bringing Dr. Yang on board at Northern Medical Center. So we are very fortunate to have him. I'm going to now allow Dr. Yang to start his presentation. At the end, we will have a question and answer session. We do have the ability for you to submit questions at any time during the presentation. There's a blue text box that you can see in the bottom right of your screen, and you can type questions there and hit send. And now I'd like to welcome Dr. Yang.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Noto, for your kind introduction. Good evenings, everyone. I'm really pleased that you're joining me and to have this discussion. Nothing brings me more satisfaction by educating people who can take care of themselves. We always think we have a healthcare system, which we don't. We have a disease management system. We have a crisis intervention center, but no one really takes care of our health. So education is a primary responsibility of a good physician. Okay, let me talk about this 5 things that we can do to enhance our immunity against the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, as you know, that we have over about 20 million people being infected, 28 million people being infected, over half million people died from COVID and this time. And the COVID has caused incredible stress to families and individuals, and not to mention the depression, anxiety, and also the medical complications for folks who suffer from other chronic medical conditions and now could not get enough therapy and attention due to the COVID. And I would like to say that because of the nature of this COVID, it tends to affect people who are immunity being compromised, and also people who have pre-existing conditions such as obesity, heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, and chronic cancer. So therefore, really the key to fight the pandemic from strategic perspective, particularly from our individual perspective, is really to improve our own immunity and prevent and treat the chronic conditions. Of course, when you come to the point where you need oxygen, you need respirators, and you need steroids or other drugs in the very serious conditions, but we don't want to get ourselves into those conditions. We want to prevent it from happening. And the reality is there's tons of things we can do ourselves that will help us with that. So that's the real reason that we are having these seminars, so that we could protect ourselves. And the SARS-CoV-2, which is the virus caused the COVID, it has several components on the virus, and they have to attach to the receptors or ACE2 on the membrane of cells and get into our cells and replicate itself so that it can survive and live. So anything we can do can block this process will be very helpful. And actually vaccine is one of them, but there are many things that we have to do to enhance the effectiveness of vaccine. And later I will tell you there's one thing we must do, otherwise even vaccine may not work well. And so there are many other things can do as well as the vaccine. And so it's very important for us to know those information. So I already mentioned this number changes every day, only increasing. And particularly now we have more variants that makes things harder to control, because these variants, they're spread faster, they're being more fatal, and they're hard to control even with vaccines. And so we're constantly fighting something evolving and changing and become hard and hard to control. Again, if we can't control the virus and how it changes itself, we have control over how we take care of ourselves and to build up our immunity. So the question everybody was asking, now would a vaccine works for variants? The answer is we're not sure. Now there are some evidence that vaccine can cover most of the variants, but also there's information that the vaccine was problematic. And so we really need to know how to take care of our immune system, so even help vaccine to work better. And we'll talk more about that later. But let me start by explaining how our immune system works. We have two kinds of immune system. One is called the innate immunity. Basically, it's immunity we're born with, and protect us from any invasion of bacteria and virus from the outside, and it could even toxins from food. And this body doesn't differentiate against any specific virus. It takes care of everything, anything. And this is our initial protection. For example, when virus come down to our nose, throat, and that's where they're going to meet barriers from the mucous membrane of those respiratory system. And there are white blood cells, there are immune factors, and attacking them to prevent them from getting into our tissues and blood. But once they got our tissues, blood, we also have a secondary reaction from our immune system, where the lymph cells and differentiate into T cells and then B cells. They're actually memorizing some characteristic of the virus or bacteria. And so that next time they remember them, they also develop some specific antibody against it. So next time when similar virus or same virus come again, they can immediately recognize and defeat it, or this is called the acquired immunity or adaptive immunity. Actually, if you think about vaccine, a vaccine actually uses this mechanism so that the body can develop specific antibody against the COVID-19. So the innate system I already mentioned as these are the part of the immune system, or skins or mucosal tissues or bone marrows where produce stem cells, then they become all kinds of blood cells, lymphatic system, lymphatic nodes, spleen, and the bloodstream. So those are all our immune system. So as I have mentioned, when the virus come to us, and our immune system, first of all, to block them from getting into the body, and then to recognize them. If we can't kill them right there and right now, then we recognize, we remember some of the characteristic of structural biochemical features. And then we develop the antibodies and immune cytokines. So next time we could react fast and better. So ultimate goal is to limit and prevent the infections. Okay, as I mentioned, if we ever want to win the battle against the pandemics, the two things we have to do. One is enhance our own immunities. The other is control the chronic illness. Actually, everything we do to enhance our immunity can actually help prevent or treat chronic illness. If you continue to see what I meant about this. So the 5 ways to enhance immunity naturally, and this is a critical we do that naturally, because our body is a very complicated, delicate system. It doesn't like anything that is foreign to our body. They like things that is natural and is identical to what we have in our body. So here's the 5 things I can list. Of course, there must be more than that, but this 5 I feel like is very important. One is the exercise. And the second is the diet and food. The third is sleep. And from the treatment perspective, I would recommend acupuncture. And I will explain why the acupuncture is singled out here, why we have so many fancy modern technologies and treatments and drugs. The last but not least is meditation. Let's start by exercise, okay? And when we exercise, we are not only promote the blood circulation, the energy circulations, which are critical because COVID is different to flus. It is specifically attacking our cardiovascular system. So the health of cardiovascular system is more important than ever when it comes to fight the COVID-19. And also when you're breathing heavily, as you run, you actually flush out the bacterial virus out of your lungs and airways, okay? And it also increases the body temperature metabolism. And actually those high temperature does the similar things as a fever does to fight the infections. And of course, it also reduce some stress hormones, and that also compromise our immune systems. So there are many research and clinical studies on this. And I just want to keep it simple here because in the future, we're going to talk about them, each one of them in great details in the future webinars. So I have mentioned the benefits of exercise. Actually, it also decreases the fat tissues. We talked about obesity is a risk factor for COVID, and it's reduced inflammations. And people have to understand inflammation is probably one single fundamental damage of the body that is a foundation for cancer development, for the coronary artery disease, for the cardiovascular problems, and autoimmune disease. So inflammation is really something we need to balance, because inflammation is necessary at times to fighting the infection, but also overreaction of inflammation system reaction is going to be a problem. So definitely we mentioned that the exercise will improve lungs and the heart functions. And people who exercise regularly, they have a decreased modalities associated with COVID-19 pandemics. I have a patient who is 82 years old, exercise every day, and she had a dinner with a grandchildren's family, his son's family. They just traveled elsewhere. They all get COVID, so that's how she got it. And at the same time, her brother got it too. Her brother was like 7 years younger, and actually she survived, and her brother didn't. The difference between herself and her brother, even though she is much older, as we know, the age is at risk, but she eat healthy food and she exercised regularly. But her brother had fatigue, have obesity, have high blood pressure, and also he drinks. So that caused very different outcome. So how much exercise is enough or is it good? And again, we'll talk more in detail in the future. But at least every week, we'll spend 150 minutes. I always believe time is a way to measure how we take care of a project. And if you don't spend enough time, no matter how much you think that's important, and you're not doing anything or doing enough with it. And you can increase the intensity and duration of exercise as you start, but don't try to be too ambitious. And that's how we always fail. And we were doing too much to begin with. And people suggest we walk about 10,000 steps a day at a rate of 64 or 170 steps per minute for at least a 10 minutes duration for healthy adults. Again, how much you should exercise, I would, depends on your individual health conditions, your regularities of exercise. I believe Northern Medical Center provide personal and physical training for people as well. So if you want to learn more, we'll talk more in the future. People also think what kind of exercise. There's all different kind of exercise, resistance training, aerobic training, high intensity interval training, where people kind of run very, very fast for 2 minutes and rest for 5 minutes, then run 2 minutes again. They claim that you only need to do 15 minutes run will be great. And some people could do consistent, like you get on treadmill for 25 minutes, 35 minutes, that's great. I think the combination will be very good. I think weight lift will be very good as well. So as long as we are moving, that's the key. As long as we are sweating a little bit, as long as we got our breathing heart rates up, I think it will benefit greatly from the exercising. The diet, I can spend the entire evening talking about food, because food is what we eat every day. And if we eat healthy food, we'll be healthy. If we eat unhealthy food, we'll be unhealthy. So people saying we are what we eat. That's very true. But I want to just mention a few things that's very most relevant to the pandemics. First of all, the food is rich in omega-3. And omega-3 is essential fatty acids. It's the bricks and the messengers of membrane of every cells, including the cells of your brain, the neurons, or cells of immune cells. So without a healthy essential fatty acids, we don't have health. And there's number of food are rich that I'm listing here. And people say, why omega-3 is so important? Actually, we have omega-6 as well. People think omega-6 is bad, omega-3 is good. That's not true. Omega-6 is as important as omega-3, and it's also essential fatty acids. And omega-6 is a pro-inflammation. People think, oh, it's pro-inflammation is not good. No, your body need to have ability to inflame, because that's the way we fight infections. But the problem, the omega-3 is anti-inflammation. So yes, they're good, but it's all about balance. So in reality, we need food. The omega-6 and omega-3 should have a 4-to-1 ratio. That's what it is. American diet has too much omega-6, like 24 times more than omega-3. That's why omega-3 is important. If you don't know whether you have omega-3 deficiency, and you can get the blood test done now. And now we test people's red blood cells, essential fatty acids. We tell you the ratio between omega-6 and omega-3, and you know exactly what you need. Recent study shows that 100 patients who admitted to hospital for COVID-19, among them 14 people died, and 13 of them actually have a low omega-3. Only one died who has normal omega-3. So it shows omega-3 is very important for everybody. Vitamin C, I can't emphasize more about food that you should eat that has vitamin C. Vitamin C actually have 50 to 100 times more in your neutral fields, one of the blood cells that was active to fight infections. And so vitamin C is not just to help us with our tissues, and people know if people are really deficient, that has trouble. But it's critical to reduce the cytokine-free radical storms. And that happens in the serious COVID patients. So now, if you, some studies shows that if we IV infuse the vitamin C for people with COVID, they have a much faster recovery and a better outcome. Again, vitamin C, you don't have to take supplements, but they're very, there are existing lots of great food here. And I have a list of them here. And this is something you should include in your diet every day. But if you feel like you're not getting enough of it, 2,000 milligram a day supplementation is very safe and useful. And the vitamin A is another one because it protects the barriers of lungs and intestines, which is the first line of defense against the infections. So they're also very important. And as far as the food, diet, supplementation, we're going to talk more in details in the future seminars. I just want to give you a taste of it. Know that the food, diet, and nutrients are critical for our immune system. Vitamin E is antioxidants. It work as well as together with vitamin C. Zinc. Well, I can't emphasize more about importance of zinc. And zinc can directly block the COVID, virus to replicate in the cells. And zinc is involved in over 300 important biochemical process in our body, and affects our brain, our immune system, our bones, our skins, all that. So in our food, we really need to pay attention how we get enough zinc here. I have a list of food here, and if you eat oyster, that's great because that has the most zinc in it. Other food like poultry and meat, red meat that has a lot of zinc, so as lots of seeds and the beans. I just want to mention about red meat. Okay, people now say red meat is really bad because it has a mix of fat with it. That's all true, but red meat is really bad if it's raised in the factory and feed with hormones and chemicals, antibiotics. So make sure you eat grass-fed meat. They are very nutritious. They have give you a lot of important nutrients like zinc. Okay, so anyway, so you have plenty to choose. But if you say, I don't eat these things or not enough, do I need zinc? Actually, there's a plasma zinc testing you can do to see whether you're deficient in zinc. And I would recommend, 50 milligram zinc daily kind of intake, either from food or from supplements, and that will be very helpful. Currently, the NIH have a large trial study about zinc impact on the COVID, because the clinical experience shows zinc is a very preventative. I just want to mention, when you read all those news studies, make sure you don't trust those studies saying when they're trying to use vitamin C or zinc or vitamin D or any nutrients to treat people who are already very sick. We're not talking about using those things to treat very sick or dying people. We're talking about prevent people from getting into those stages. And I want you to read studies about preventative measures using nutrients, because there are folks trying to dismiss the importance of nutrients by using the nutrients to treat the serious disease. That's not what nutrients was designed for. And even pharmaceutical drugs cannot do that. You can't expect the zinc to do that either. I will tell you more about that in the next. Vitamin D, that's what it is. Recently, their study shows they infused 200,000 international unit vitamin D for very sick people, and they showed they didn't do anything. Of course not. When people come to that stage, no matter what you shoot them, nothing going to work. Vitamin D needs to be taken on the daily basis or weekly basis, okay? And you don't need a lot of them, 5,000, 4,000 a day, or 50,000 a week would be enough. The vitamin D is particularly important that because we're not getting enough exposure to the sunlight. Even we do, if you're living in a place like Boston or somewhere in Canada, you don't get really enough sunshine from November to March. And the majority of people I've tested all have vitamin D deficiency. Even for people who live in Miami, I just had a patient today who lived in Miami. He said, well, the weather was not great recently, but actually people don't always get out having enough unprotected sunshine for 15 minutes. Vitamin D is so important. There are studies shows that if people is vitamin D deficient, they have the same immunological problems as someone who suffer from COVID. Imagine if you're vitamin D deficient, already have immune system compromised, then you contract the COVID, that's how it's going to be very serious. Actually, study shows that it is serious. We all know if you're older, if you're male, if you have chronic disease, pre-existing conditions, you have a risk of a serious COVID, and your chance of death is higher. But if people have a vitamin D deficiency, doesn't matter you're young or old, you're male or female, you're healthy or you have pre-existing condition, you're going to be in trouble. Your symptoms is going to be more serious, and the risk of death is higher. So make sure everybody eat vitamin D fortified food, and particularly to get enough sunshine. If not, make sure you take vitamin D supplements. Actually, again, you can blood test you to see where you are with your vitamin D levels. Okay, here's my favorite subject, sleep. And because we don't get enough sleep, and even I want to, and we have so much to do, and just not enough hours of the day. But we spend 1/3 of our life sleeping. There's a good reason for it. The reason is simple. It supports us to be healthy, happy, productive in other 2/3 of life, okay? And that's the reason. So sleep shows that improve our immune cells, facilitate the T cells distributions, and increase the number of circulating immune cells when during the infections. Actually, I have a new information for you about sleeps. The study shows that they take groups of people with same kind of situations, age and background, all that. They randomly divide them into 2 groups. Okay, one group, they allow them only sleep for less than 6 hours. The other one sleep more than 7 hours for 1 week, just 1 week. Then they expose them to common cold virus. The common cold, I don't know how they got that study approved ethically. But anyway, so the people who slept less than 6 hours contract the common cold virus 4 times more than people who slept more than 7 hours. Okay, so that is a very, very big difference. Now, we can't test how this sleep affect our acquired immunity, because acquired immunity is very complicated. You don't know how long it takes and all that. But vaccine has a similar mechanism as acquired immunity. So people studied it. So they studied by saying having people who sleep less than 6 hours 2 nights before the vaccine, and versus people who had a full good night's sleep 2 nights before the vaccine. Guess what? The people who didn't sleep well, they couldn't produce enough antibody. Some of them even had to get another vaccine, another dose of vaccine to build up the antibody. Also, the protection time was less. And the antibodies, number of antibody or amount of antibody was less. Okay, and the side effects is more. And they also find if you sleep more after vaccine, and actually everything improves, including less side effects, more antibodies, and longer period of protection. Because I don't know if you know how long this COVID vaccine going to protect us. At the best, about 6 months. And what happens after 6 months? Okay, and what happens if less than 6 months? And you think you still have protection, but actually you don't, right? That's why some people 2 weeks after vaccine, they still get the COVID infected. And some people even have a second infections after first one. Actually, one of my patients experienced that. So therefore, what we do with ourselves, how our immune system function is critical. And even when you have vaccine or medication, if your immune system are not good enough, they cannot even help you. Okay, so this is very critical. Well, what is a good sleep? And the good sleep, you have to sleep 7 to 9 hours. That's how long you sleep. And second is what time you sleep is as important. People should go to bed, sleep no later than 11 p.m. And of course, the Chinese medicine has more to say about why. So in the future, we'll talk about how modern medicine and Chinese medicine perspective on good night's sleep and how you sleep fast, how you stay in sleep, how you feel refreshed after sleep. Okay, and there's certain food you eat at dinner that helps sleep. Okay, the food that rich in the omega-3 and the food that help body produce serotonins, and because that helps produce the melatonin at night. Some snacks you do at bedtime. Some people trying to skip dinner and then got hungry at the bedtime. And so there are certain snacks you do, like almonds, for example, will be very helpful at the bedtime sleep. Of course, if you're lactose tolerant, you can have a warm milk to go with it. Okay, and the sleep hygiene is always important. You always get up at the same time, go to bed and get up same time, and you always keep yourself ready, relaxed, not overly stimulated, and always use bed for rest and not for watching TV or talking to people or play with your phones, and so on and so forth. And there's so much we can do to protect our sleep. And I can't talk, in the future we'll have a more discussion on that. Acupuncture. I mentioned why we want to single out acupuncture. It is not just because it is acupuncture is a Chinese medicine, is alternative, is a special. No, none of that. The problem with our modern medicine is we're so young. We recognize the body structure. We know very well about our skins, our bones, our muscles, everything we can dissect, we can see, we can touch. We're very good at it. So we probably have the best surgeons and surgical procedures in the world in the United States. But that's not going to help us in the COVID, right? We can't operate on COVID patients. Second is biochemistry. We know very well. And unfortunately, we didn't put our medical practice into emphasize the nutrients, which is a real chemical of our body. Our water, electrolytes, vitamins, minerals, fatty acids, amino acids. We didn't pay attention to them. Instead, we focus on drugs, pharmaceuticals, and their work by disrupt the natural body functions to make us feel better, but doesn't make us better. Because it's a foreign chemicals, our body naturally reject them and fight them, cause side effects, and eventually cause the loss of effectiveness of drugs. Even when drug works, it masks symptoms, it doesn't treat anything that caused the problem. That's very sad. Modern medicine has wonderful knowledge about body biochemistry. So we should really bring nutritional medicine back to the mainstream practice. And we'll do a lot less harm, a lot more good. But that's all. After that, we have no idea what to do if people say, I'm tired, I'm in pain, I'm anxious, I'm depressed, okay? and I have trouble with my bowel movements. I have diarrhea or I'm constipated. Okay. We don't understand how body works energetically. What they're complaining is about the energy. So people have trouble to understand what do you mean, Dr. Yang, by energy. And the energy what I'm talking about is the vital life force and life signs. And we do recognize that as a modern medical doctor. You know, when you go to your doctor's office, what they do first, they measure your blood pressure, they measure your heart rate and breathing and the body temperature. This is all signs of your body's energy, right? And if you have a more problem, they're going to do your EKGs, EEGs, EMGs, ENGs, all those Gs is trying to measure electronic activities, you know, of your body, which is energy, right? But other than that, they don't know what the body's energetic system is like and how the body energetic system work and how we treat them. So the ancient Chinese medicine, no matter who created, they had a capacity to visualize human energetic system and where the energetic system human being connect with the environment. The points they're connecting the body and the environment is the acupuncture points. They have energetic channels. The human energy travels to every part of the body and connect all the organs together. So in other words, our medical system is like car shops that has no electronic engineers. So that's why we're in the medical crisis right now. So acupuncture as a treatment modality of ancient Chinese medicine is a energetic engineering or energetic intervention for our body. By stimulating the surface of body with these fine needles, we are able to correct, regulate energetic flows, balance the energetic natures, redirect energetic, the direction of the energetic flows. You see, what do you mean? For example, why do people become nauseous and vomiting? Because the energy of their stomach moving up instead of moving down. Why some people organ prolapse? Because the energy holding them is weak, not enough, right? Same thing if you have coughing, wheezing, and short of breath, that's same thing. Your energy of your lungs is supposed to be moving downward, not upward. So acupuncture really serve, and same as Chinese herbal remedies, really serve as energetic engineer to support and repair and help our human body. Of course, if you take care of the body's energy, the body will take care of the biochemistry. So you can have endless study if you have money to see how acupuncture actually improve neurotransmitters, you know, and the pain, the materials like endorphins, and promote blood circulations, improve immune system, and you can see all of that. People think that's the reason acupuncture improve our immune system. No, the reason the acupuncture generates all these biochemical changes that help our immune system, help our blood circulations, help our organ functions, is because acupuncture normalizes our body's energy. Okay, so we'll talk more about that in the future seminars. Okay, if you say, I can't get acupuncture, I don't have money to do it, I don't have people around me to do it, and what else I can do myself? Meditation. If you see this lady sitting there in that double lotus position and breathing naturally, you know what? That is the best way the body will have the energy circulations. So the energy circulate the best when your mind is empty and your heart is in peace and your body sit in such a energetically connected way. Okay. So there are tons of research from NIH and other studies about how meditation helps improve immune system, as I'm listing here, reduce inflammations, even increase the telomerase activities. I want to talk a little bit about this. Not many people know about the telomere. Telomere is a pieces and end of the chromosomes. Every time our cell divide as we live constantly, or we have body replicate itself, we consume a piece of telomere. And we will only have limited. When we were born, we already consumed half of our telomere, entire telomere. So people think the less telomere you have, the shorter lifespan you're going to have. However, body has a mechanism, something called telomerase. It can reproduce telomere, almost like body has a way to prolong its life. But this telomerase actually is quiet. It doesn't do anything unless you activate it. There are certain things you can do to activate it. One of them is meditation. Okay. So in other words, meditation is not only going to improve your immune system, if you do it regularly, if you do it right, and you can actually live longer and healthier. Okay. And another study shows the Chinese herb astragalus extract can help activate telomerase as well. And I'm not surprised at all, because in Chinese medicine, there were stories about a Taoist monk who lived over 800 years. The emperor wanted to know his secret. And so he told the emperor one day that the secret was the chicken soup cooked with astragalus. I don't know how much truth to it, but it's interesting that today we found the extract from the astragalus can activate the telomerase. So I believe the Northern Medical Center can refer everybody who are interested in learn the best meditations, for people living today. So that's one of the things I do myself, and you can check out the website, thefallingdalfa.org, and give you the best energy exercise and the best guidance for meditation. All right, I'm going to stop here and answer any question you have. And thank you for your attention. Dr. Noto.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yang. Your presentation is very informative, and it also Hello, Dr. Yang, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well.
I want to thank you very much. Your presentation is extremely informative and also very practical. We do have some questions, if you don't mind, that we could ask both from the audience and from here, from the center. One question we see here is about Chinese herbs. You talked about one. Is there any Chinese herbs that you recommend to improve the immune system during this time?
And there were many modern studies about each single Chinese herbs. There are many of them having the effectiveness against the virus or bacteria. Probably the most famous one was what Chinese call the Qinghao Su, which is a drug developed against malaria. And the lady who got it received the Nobel Prize. There are many other things, including the Tranxinnian that Dr. Noto sent me today, and China has a Tranxinnian, the liquids people drink. But the best way to use Chinese herbal remedies is not like that. Chinese herbal remedies, as I mentioned, is a energetic agent. They're best used customized because based on the individual energetic status. For example, not everybody contracted COVID-19 will have a terrible fever or will cough large copious of phlegms or have developed into heart failure or this or that. And how each individual respond is based on what energetic interaction between virus and the body. And the Chinese herbal remedy is designed, formulated based on that individual response. So people who suffer from COVID may not get same herbal remedies. And if you give everybody same herbal remedies, you're either not practicing Chinese medicine or you can do harm and then good. So as far as how Chinese herbal medicine can become great contributor to your health, and we'll talk about that in the future webinars.
We have another question from an audience member. You had mentioned about doing blood work or lab tests on patients. Is that something you commonly do? And if so, if someone comes up with a high cortisol level as one of the stress hormones, is there anything you recommend for that?
Well, definitely high cortisol level shows that they're under tremendous stress, and that's going to compromise their immune system. And there's nutrients and there's herbs that can help to reduce that. I think the best thing still to do is to analyze what was the cause of stress. Because stress is our reaction and perception to what is going on in your life. So that really, every symptoms and the signs or abnormal blood work, they are our friends, they're not our enemies. Our job is not to just reduce them. Our job is to say what message what message they're trying to give us. If your cortisol level is high, that means you're under tremendous amount of stress and you need to analyze the source of it and correct it. Just reducing the cortisol number is not going to solve the problem.
Along that line, many people are suffering from anxiety, symptoms of depression due to being isolated or under quarantine. Is there anything you typically recommend for patients that are starting to feel some of those symptoms during this time?
Whenever we are in a situation where we don't have control, and it generates anxiety. And there are a lot of things we don't have control. And how the media broadcast disseminate the information, and how the government policy against the COVID, managing the COVID, and how the city and the school make decisions, and how the economy going. All those things we don't have control, and therefore whenever we focus our mind on those things, we're going to be very anxious or frustrated or depressed, and all of that going to harm our immune system. So we really should learn to turn our focus, our energy into things we do have control. For example, why don't we take time to do good exercise? Why don't spend more time with families, having, and having more communications, doing more things together, because it is a very rare opportunity the family has time together. And why don't we focus on learning something and eating healthier, reflecting on our life and reflecting the view of the world to see how we could live a different, better, more productive life. I think whatever happens in the nature, doesn't matter it is a political crisis or it is a natural disaster or pandemics, I think it's all warnings to human race that we need to reflect, we need to change the way we live and how we treat each other. And anyway, of course, it's not practical, it's philosophical, but I do believe that is a fundamental reason. And if we focus on things we have control, we'll relax right away. meditation is a great way to reduce the anxiety. And there are a lot of food full of the tryptophans, and that will help. And also the food that help body to produce the GABA, which is another calming neurotransmitters, would help. And also the good night sleep is important. And there's so many things that we can do. One thing that about green tea, I recommend, green tea has the L-theanine in it. It is very calming, but doesn't make you tired. And so this is a drink that has both yin and the yang in it. The yang is the caffeine, make you excited and energized, but the yin part is L-theanine that actually relax you and calm you. And of course, you can take some supplements of it as well.
We're getting a series of questions here. One question, you talked about the importance of sleep and how that plays a role in our health as well as the immune system. Do you ever recommend people who have insomnia or problems with snoring doing a sleep study or a sleep evaluation?
Definitely should. A sleep study, if you have trouble breathing, you wake up in the middle of the night gasping for air, or you wake up never refreshed, and you should have a sleep study done. And of course, even you have sleep apnea, it's only tell you what you have. It doesn't tell you what was the cause of it. So we still need to look into what was the cause of your sleep apnea. And of course, CPAP helps if you have obstructive sleep apnea. And but still, do we need to lose weight? Do we need to drink less? Do we need to control the caffeine intake? And so on and so forth. And that's all very important.
We have another question here, which I believe goes into some of the philosophical perspective from traditional Chinese medicine about balancing the body. Oftentimes here in the West, we think, more is better, or so the stronger the immune system, the better. But in Chinese medicine, they talk about balancing and harmonizing of the body. We have a question here about the acid and the alkaline body balance. If it's body's too acidic or not enough alkaline, that plays a role. What is your thoughts about balance of the body as well as the pH, acid alkaline balance of the body?
The balance, the concept of balance is never just Chinese. It's a universal phenomenon. The Chinese medicine use yin and yang. Yin and yang is not a theory, it's not a concept. It's simply the way to describe a fact that this world is made of two opposite, interdependent, interrelated, transformative forces. And it manifests in our body in perfect way. In our neurotransmitters, we have inhibitory neurotransmitters, now we have excitatory neurotransmitters. And we have hormones increase our blood pressure, pressure and reduce our blood pressure. We have hormones increase of blood sugar and decrease our blood sugar. So there are always two things. And acid and alkaline is another example. And even the electricities in the body, you have a positive, negative, and all these minerals and generates different the two sides of it. So balance is, in modern medicine we call the homeostasis, and in Chinese called balance. I think good medicine, no matter it's a Chinese or Western, should always focus on the balance. Same thing with our immune system. You have in the cells that pro-inflammation, which we need to be able to fight infection, but you don't want it to go over the board. If you go over the board, the body begin to develop cytokines. They're going to damage our own system or develop autoimmune disease. And so you need a anti-inflammatory cells to come in and to balance it. So balance is very, very important, and just it's not philosophical. It is a fact. It's not just Chinese medicine. Any good medicine should pay attention to balance.
We're getting close to the end here. One final question from the audience is about any simple acupressure points people could do at home if they feel their immune system is low, or they're at home and they want to do something positive. Do you recommend any points that people could press on?
Yes, I would recommend you. I have a book, The Facing East, have lots of points about it. You can go take a reference. There are a few points. It's easy to do. One is the large intestine 4. I can't show you there. It's very simple because it's right here. So if you put your hands there, if you see that, and that's the point. So it's very easy. You just rub it, and this is the energy point, source of the energy from the large intestines, which is the partner of lungs. Okay, you know the lungs we need to protect, and the large intestine is its partner. So if you stimulate it, it provides energy for your lungs. Okay, so that's one point. It's very easy to do. The second point is very easy to find, is the inside of this. I want to show you right here. Okay, and this is the large intestine here, and this is the lung right here, almost like where the first line of wrist line, and they're right here. So there's a depression. Acupuncture point is always a depression. There's a little depression there, little area there. When you press it, you feel a little achiness, soreness, even tingling, numbness. That means you're touching your energy. So that's a very good point to use. You can do it on both sides, right? And it's very easy to do because it's on your hand. And if you want to do more, you can add one at the elbow. And if you put elbow here and you see the crease at the end of it, so that is another very good point to use for acupressure. And of course, I only introduced the points on arms and the hands. It's easier to access. There are plenty on the legs and the feet. Mm-hmm. And if you're interested, we'll even teach you how to do that down the road.
That's wonderful. It's very helpful. We're going to end here. First, let me thank you, Dr. Yang. Very helpful, very informative, and very practical. We hope that you'll come back and do more webinars, presentations with us. We're striving to do almost monthly webinars, so we invite you to come back and do more in the future. We would really appreciate that. We will be emailing out a survey to all our people in attendance today. If you could give us some feedback and see how we can improve in the future, that would be wonderful. We're leaving our contact information for Northern Medical Center up here. We have information if you'd like to call or go online. Also, I want to thank everybody for attending tonight. We hope that you come back and watch our webinars in the future. And we hope you have a good night. Stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you, everyone.